What is up, you guys? We are back. We're gonna get right into it. Today's book is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien. I don't know. First of all, let's take a second here to appreciate that book cover. Like, look at how incredible that is. I'm gonna let it simmer for a second. I got this off Thrift Books, and it belonged to a Miss Five. Thank you, Miss Five. I loved it. And this was my, not that anybody cares, my bookmark was my entrance ticket to the Capitoline Museum in Rome. Now this book, it is a classic, and everybody knows about it. Everybody's heard about it. Most people have seen the movies. I can't remember the last Hobbit, Lord of the Rings movie that I saw, but this is inspiring me to watch them all because, wow, what a book. It starts off, and it's so familiar. I'm not going to read too many excerpts from it. Let me first read this quote from this woman named Lauren Isley from the New York Herald Tribune. She says, "The great tale of wonder, like the great novel, is not a preoccupation of children. The adult mind has, if anything, greater need of fantasy than that of a child." Like, wow. It's not so true. And she doesn't even tell us why, but it hit. So I know that it's true. So a few things that struck me about this that it wasn't. Actually, let me read the first paragraph first. It says, "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit, not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort." Wow. It is so expertly written and so vividly written. I was astounded. Like, and I knew that it was going to blow me away, but it really did that. I would 100% recommend this. If you, like, stop this video right now and go read it. Stop it right now and go read it. Go reread it. In fact, I need to read all of the Lord of the Rings because I haven't read any of those. So when I do, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'll upload them to this channel. Follow my journey through the Tolkien world. I'm also reading Dune right now, so in talking about like world building, it's incredible. This is definitely catered, or this is at least what it felt like. I think I read excerpts of this when I was in 3rd grade, like literally when I was 8 years old, and you can tell that it is. And I know that this is not going against the quote that I just read about the adult mind needing fantasy more than a child's, but it definitely, like, and maybe it's because it's nostalgic, but it is kind of catered toward a younger audience. All the chapters, the couple things that surprised me, there's 2 things that are at the top of my head, is that it's each chapter is very, like, episodial. Like, it starts and it finishes in, like, such a great way. Like, there's the part when they meet the spiders in the forest, and like that's one episode, and they're in the elven world. They travel to the elven world, and that's another one. And then they ride the barrels on the water, and that's another one. And then there's Smaug and all that stuff, you know? And so it kind of wraps itself up nicely, which was something that I was surprised by. Also, the narrator is funny. Like, I did not expect that. And the third thing is that there are so many songs in here, and rhymes and poems, and like the riddles that he has with him and Gollum. Like, wow, I was really taken aback by this. Like, and at the beginning, the call to adventure, it just melted my heart. Like, why did tears come to my eyes when Gandalf comes up to him and is like, you know, there's this crazy adventure and we need you. Wow. The call to adventure. We're all hobbits in a way. Let me read a couple of these excerpts, talk about it just a little bit more, and then we can end. The story is as many people know, there's this hobbit. He lives comfortably in his hobbit hole, and Gandalf the wizard comes up to him and presents him with this adventure. And surprisingly, Bilbo accepts. Bilbo's the hobbit, and it's just incredible. And it takes him on journeys, and you can, like, from the beginning of the book to the end, and it's not a very long book. I think it's 287 pages, what I just read. 287 pages. I'm going to read a couple excerpts, and you can see the progression of Bilbo as a person, and just getting out of his comfort zone and becoming a better version of himself. It's actually just a really tender story. And he faces dragons, he faces giant spiders in the forests, he visits elves in their kingdom, and he does so many things, and he accomplishes so much. He changes as a person, and I'm going to read that quote by, I feel like that's the main message is, I don't know, the call to adventure is a good thing, even though it might not feel like a good thing. It's uncomfortable, and it pushes you, but it's a good thing. This quote here says, "Somehow, the killing of the giant spider all alone by himself in the dark without the help of the wizard or the dwarves or of anyone else made a great difference to Mr. Baggins. He felt a different person and much fiercer and bolder in spite of an empty stomach as he wiped his sword on the grass and put it back into his sheath." And it's just like funny, it's tender, it's vivid, it's beautiful. This is right here, I wrote that it's very episodial. This is at the end of chapter 8. It says, "There in the king's dungeon, poor Thorin lay." Thorin is one of the dwarves that Bilbo joins. There's Gandalf, I think there's 13 dwarves, and then there's 12. And then there's Bilbo. And it says, "There in the king's dungeon, poor Thorin lay, and after he had got over his thankfulness for bread and meat and water, he began to wonder what had become of his unfortunate friends. It was not very long before he discovered, but that belongs to the next chapter, in the beginning of another adventure in which the Hobbit again showed us his usefulness." And that's where the chapter ends. Like, it's very episodial. I don't know what another word for it. This short little quote says, "It was at this point that Bilbo stopped. Going on from there was the bravest thing he ever did." Doesn't it just melt your heart a little bit? It just makes you feel good. I need to reread it already. This is my favorite part. My favorite quote. This is when he's facing the dragon. And the dragon, and it's actually like kind of deep once you kind of dig into like the symbolism and the messages, you know? Especially when there's a part when Bilbo actually gives. So the dragon is guarding this thing called the Arkenstone. And Bilbo goes, he's labeled as the thief by many of the people around him, and he goes in and he gets it, and he actually gives it to the humans, not to Thorin and the people that he's with. And he does this so that they can better, so that the humans and the dwarves can negotiate and like be on the same team instead of their waging a war, or things like that. Like, it's very, like, on the surface level, it's very, and like I feel like there was honestly like Christian symbolism. Like, am I crazy to think that? I know that J.R.R. Tolkien and what was his name? He wrote Mere Christianity, the Screwtape Letters. C.S. Lewis were very close, and they shared ideas with one another. And C.S. Lewis is obviously very religious. I don't know as much about J.R.R. Tolkien, but it felt very symbolic in the same kind of way, even though it is kind of catered toward children, and I don't know, symbolism felt like it was there. Anyway, this is my favorite part of the entire story. It says, this is the dragon speaking to Bilbo, he says, and this is page 212 in there, so we're almost toward the end, and his transformation of being a brave hobbit is almost toward an end. And it says, the dragon asks him, "Who are you and where do you come from, may I ask?" Oh, this part is so good. It says, "You may indeed. I come from under the hill, and under the hills and over the hills my paths led. and through the air I am he that walks unseen. So I can well believe, said Smaug, but that is hardly your usual name. I am the clue finder, the web cutter, the stinging fly. I was chosen for the lucky number. Lovely title, sneered the dragon, but lucky numbers don't always come off. I am he that buries his friends alive and drowns them and draws them alive again from the water. I came from the end of a bag, but no bag went over me. Though these don't sound so credible, scoffed Smaug. I am the friend of bears and the guest of eagles. I am ring winner and luck wearer, and I am barrel rider, went on Bilbo, beginning to be pleased with his riddling. Like, he's all those things. He did all those things. And it's just so satisfying to see his confidence in himself grow, and like he realizes that he's awesome. And I love that. At the end here it says, so comes snow after fire, and even dragons have their ending, said Bilbo, and he turned his back on his adventure. And then he goes back home but he's different. It's interesting because he gets back home and he realizes the place is the same and the people are the same, but he's changed. There is a long road yet, said Gandalf, but it is the last road, said Bilbo. And then there's a song that says, roads go ever on, over rock and under tree, by caves where sun has shone, by streams that never find the sea, over snow by winter sown, and through the merry flowers of June, over grass and over stone, and under mountains in the moon. The last quote that I'll read and then I'll end says, Gandalf looked at him. My dear Bilbo, he said, something is the matter with you. You are not the hobbit that you were. Oh, I loved it. I cannot recommend this book enough. So go out there and read it. It was so good. Very tender. One word, The Hobbit in one word, tender. Loved. Anyway, that's my review. Let me know what your thoughts are on the book. I need to reread. I need to rewatch all the movies. I think there's 3 movies for these 287 pages, so that seems like a little bit of a cash grab, but I'm sure they're great. I can't remember truly all of them, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, this was Carson Reads. It's called Carson Reads because I'm Carson and I read. Hope you all have a great day. Ciao.